Hello everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream. News summary from Moscow program. Today is 9th of September. Now it's 12 o'clock in the morning Moscow time, and as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments, and I guess news segment will be relatively long due to this big volume of important news that Russian media and public is paying attention to. So make your coffee, dear friends, if you're gonna stay to the end. And as always, after a news segment, I will join community chat for 5, 10, 15 minutes. I will scroll through chat and will react on the questions and the comments that will be directed to me. Dear friends, if you want to highlight any question or any topic, you can use super chat feature on my Rumble channel, where channel is monetized. And simultaneously support my work. And when it comes to support, well, you can use some other means too. You can donate to this project. Gary Proctor is saying that audio is bad, and thank you for letting me know. I will am I back? Hopefully audio is become a little better now. I don't know, dear friends. Let me know in the chat if audio is better now. Maybe notebook is overloaded again, and I have to neither. I might have to do like special fundraise for a new notebook. I don't know, but hopefully. Oh, okay. Jerry is commenting that sound is good now. So thank you, Jerry, for letting me know straight away. So I react in the beginning. So, dear friends, yes, when it comes to support, you can also use not just super chat on Rumble, but PayPal, Boosty platforms to donate. Also, you can subscribe to my Patreon channel. That would be also great support, of course. And I do have a lot of extra content, by the way, exclusive content on the Patreon. Also, you can subscribe to Boosty. All the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And Anya, sound is okay, right? Well, unfortunate that sound is okay. Okay. Okay, dear friends. My apologies for some technical issues, but yet again, I don't have studio equipment, so I know I'm working with what I got right. Anyways, dear friends. Anyways, let me go through some news now. Let's start the news segment. I will just add that if you have not seen my videos yesterday, dear friends, you might don't know that from now on I'm going to try to make 2 news updates daily from Monday to Friday. From Monday to Thursday for sure, by the way. Friday, let's see how it will be. And live streams on Saturday, Sundays. And sometimes my video is going to be pre-recorded walking talk type, most likely as it was yesterday. Sometimes live streams. I will mix up, by the way, because Christopher style videos, as I call it, and there are many others. And so, dear friends, because I would not be able to repeat yesterday's news that I shared in the first update or the second one, check those videos if you will have a time. And so, yes, that's being said, let's go through some news now. And first of all, let me tell you, dear friends, that seems like there is certain divisions between US and UK on a matter of who will replace Zelensky in office. And yesterday I did share information about it and my take on it. Clearly, Zaluzhny, favorite of UK, is in trouble, kind of, because he's been named as a mastermind by German investigators. By the way, according to German media, Zaluzhny, former head of general staff of Kiev regime, was named as mastermind of Nord Stream terrorist attack. And this is a big deal. This is a big deal, of course, because it seems like even though earlier there was reports that London managed to persuade Washington that Zaluzhny will replace Zelensky, seems like Trump's administration have changed its mind, and they authorized this basically attack on Zaluzhny, right? So most likely soon we're going to see more and more hit pieces even in the media on Zaluzhny, and probably Washington will try to put forward someone that Washington will favor, and it's not going to be Zaluzhny. When it comes to Zelensky itself, he is done, by the way. He is finished, we'll understand that. And on this very matter, and the difference, if you are interested in the details, what am I talking about? What hit piece on Zaluzhny, what's going on? Yesterday, I spoke about this matter in my second live stream, right? So check that video if you can. And today we have this report, by the way, that ex-foreign minister of Kiev regime claims Zelensky forced him to secretly flee Ukraine. And this is also kind of hit, not just on Zelensky, but also on people that may be seen by either London or Washington, main players when it comes to Kiev regime, who will replace, right? Who will consider the replacement for Zelensky. And let me give you some details, dear friends. Ex-Ukrainian foreign minister Dmitry Kuleba, you are familiar, of course, with this clown, claimed that he managed to run away from the country shortly before Vladimir Zelensky enacted their decree banning, basically, former diplomats from foreign trips. Kuleba, who is currently in Poland, made remarks in an interview with their Corriere della Sera published on Monday. This is a big Spanish media outlet, if I remember correctly. The ex-diplomat said that he left Ukraine mere hours before the travel restriction took effect on September 3rd. We have quotes from Kuleba. I never thought I would have had to run away from my country like a thief in the night. Kuleba told it's Italian newspaper, not Spanish one, by the way, this Corriere della Sera. Their ex-minister also claimed that their decree was aimed directly at him and a handful of other former diplomats, while the measure is officially linked to broader travel restrictions placed on military-age Ukrainian men. That is not the case, given that the former diplomatic officials are not obligated to serve, Kuleba asserted. Another quote from him: the truth is that Zelensky and his entourage don't want us to go abroad and say things they believe might be contrary to their government's line. He claimed, I've calculated that there are about 20 of us subjects to this measure. I don't think I suffer from a persecution mania, but I know for sure that this decree is aimed at blocking me and a few others. Kuleba blamed the latest measure taken against their ex-diplomats on their purported Soviet mentality still presenting in certain palace circles. So it is interesting, isn't it? Direct hit on Zelensky, by the way, right? Direct hit on Zelensky, and potentially with their allies of Zelensky, or whomever Zelensky and his team would like to replace him if it comes to it. You're not going to hear this kind of allegations towards Kyiv regime in the Western media often, right? At least until now, that was the case. But I guess as a confrontation between Washington and London will escalate on a matter of whose favorite will replace Zelensky, more and more such statements are going to be published in the Western media, and more hit pieces, by the way. And there's Zaluzhny, current so-called ambassador of Kyiv regime into UK, is definitely on the line together with Zelensky. Also, dear friends, just about hour before I started this stream, some of the big channels on the Russian segment of internet reported about this map that you see on your screen right now. And according to reports, hackers from a Killnet group that recently hacked general staff, basically, of Kiev regime and shared with public information that since the beginning of special military operation, Kiev forces lost 1.7 million troops killed and missing. So very same hacker group published this map online that allegedly shows a plan by the Russia's enemies, led by US, UK, France, and Germany, to divide Ukraine into zones of influence. Thus, Russia, allegedly, according to this map, gets all of Donbass as well as a part of the Zaporozhye and Kherson regions along their current front line. The West will allegedly gain control over their so-called gray zone that you can see on this map here. And there will be also a third zone, supposedly relatively free, which is crazy to say. But if NATO is in control of gray zone, then how rest gonna be relatively free? This map basically demonstrates, and this is my comment, by the way. This map definitely demonstrates the wet dreams of the mentally elites of the West, and of course, this will not happen. At least because Russia will never agree to see NATO troops on the territory of this so-called Ukraine, at least outside of the Western Ukraine. And of course, Russia will never refuse to completely liberate from enemy. I use different words there, but from enemy, not only Donbass, but also the Kherson and Zaporozhye region. And my take, dear friends, I'm quite sure that after this conflict will end, then one way or another, but from Kharkiv to Odessa, all the territories will be, will hold referendums and will join Russian Federation. And if Moscow will ever agree, and Western Ukraine, for that matter, most likely will be reclaimed by Poland, Hungary, and Romania that used to have control over those areas, right? In different time frame of 20th century. And the rest, by the way, if Moscow will ever agree for whatever reason to maintain basically Ukraine as a landlocked quasi-state, rest will be in an exclusive zone of Russian influence. But this map, this is definitely wet dreams of globalists and globalist puppet regimes in the West. This is unrealistic. If NATO generals and the globalists and their control regimes are truly thinking that this will fly well in Moscow, this idea, they are so mistaken, isn't it? Share your take, dear friends, what you think about it. Hopefully, you can see this map well enough to have an opinion on it. But there's no way, by the way, no way Russia will allow NATO troops, at least outside of the Western Ukraine, to be present on the territory of this former Soviet republic. Just completely impossible. Also, dear friends, RIA Novosti, based on Russian Defense Ministry's latest update, reported that air defense systems on duty intercepted 31 drones overnight. I can give you some specifics on that. 15 drones were shot down over the Black Sea. In the Belgorod region, 7 drones were intercepted. In Kursk, 3. In Crimea and Krasnodar Krai, 2 each. In Tambov and Voronezh regions, 1 each. Relatively low level of attempt of Kiev regime and its NATO backers to strike deep into Russian territory. Somewhat similar reports we were receiving yesterday about previous night, or maybe Kiev regime and their NATO is saving drones or stockpiling drones to launch a massive drone and missile strike on Russian Federation. Can be the case. And by the way, yesterday there was a missile strike. For the last several days, Kiev regime and NATO and their NATO allies are actively shelling Donbass, Donetsk city, for example, and Makeyevka. And yesterday, for example, Ukrainian forces and their NATO allies used the British supplied Storm Shadow missiles in combined strikes on these two settlements. As a result of these strikes, during the which high-rise apartment building was hit, dear friends, 2 civilians were killed and 16 civilians were wounded. Have you heard about this attack yesterday in any of the Western media outlets? I'm quite sure you did not, because none of them reported about casualties among Russian civilians. None of them reported about it, right? And whenever Russia conducts strikes on military and logistical infrastructure of the Kyiv regime, if there is a collateral damage, which is a tragic, by the way, of course, right? No one denies that. But unfortunately, during the high-intensity conflicts, there is a collateral damage. It is practically impossible to avoid any casualties among civilians. But main point is to intentionally not strike civilians, right? Main point is to your attacks be directed on legit military targets, as Russia does always, right? But whenever there is a collateral damage, whole Western so-called media is going hysterical, right? Always, that is always the case. But whenever Kyiv regime intentionally, in my personal opinion, strikes residential areas in Russian cities, whole Western media keeps quiet. They never report about casualties among Russian civilians, do they? No. So unfortunately and tragically, 2 civilians were killed yesterday as a result of this attack that was conducted yet again, not just by Kyiv regime, but by NATO countries. First of all, by UK, because British Storm Shadow missile was used. And there will be repercussions, by the way. If British elites thinking that they can kill Russians with impunity, they are mistaken big time, and they comes for retaliation. And their citizens of UK should know that it was not Russia that started this. They should know that. RIA Novosti is also reporting that Russian troops entered the village of Primorskaya in Zaporozhye direction. Let me give you little details on that. So Russian troops entered the Zaporozhye village of Primorskaya on Stepnogorsk direction of the Zaporozhye front line, and battles are underway to liberate this settlement. Vladimir Rogov, chairman of the public chamber of the Russian Federation's Commission on Sovereignty Issues and co-chairman of the Coordinating Council for the Integration of New Regions, told the RIA Novosti Primorskaya is located near the former Kakhovka reservoir along the highway towards the city of Zaporozhye, which is under the control of the Ukrainian forces for now, but not for longer. Our troops, according to Rogov, Russian troops entered Primorskaya and expanded the zone of control there. So I will say significant sectoral scale progress of the Russian armed forces in this direction. And dear friends, yesterday in my second update, I shared quite a time to I divided quite a time to share with you information about mercenaries and private military companies that are engaged in this proxy war that West is waging against Russia. And we have some additional information on topic of mercenaries. DD Geopolitics Telegram channel reported that members of the Mexican drug cartel Jalisco New Generation, CJNG, have undergone combat training in Ukraine on how to operate drones, according to Mexico's Milenio newspaper, citing law enforcement sources in Jalisco state. This cartel, by the way, CJNG fighters reportedly traveled to Ukraine, where they learned modern warfare tactics, including precision strikes with drones. And I'm quite sure, by the way, they get their hands on anti-tanker missiles, air defense systems also, and God knows what kind of weapons these drug cartels and criminal organizations in Latin America have now, did manage to buy from Kyiv regime, and Kyiv regimes, tremendously corrupt officers, by the way. They probably are well equipped, and if US will actually go ahead, as some media outlets are claiming, if US will actually go ahead with their military operations against drug cartels, well, they're gonna be surprised. big time, I guess, right? Because these drug cartels are not joking, by the way. They are building up actual militaries, right? With their battle experience in high intensity combat that US militaries lack. So these drug cartel formations might be actually more experienced and more capable than regular forces of US Army. Something to keep in mind, isn't it? And dear friends, before I continue, and there is, as you can see, this is all these windows, by the way, are news, right? So as you can see, there is a lot of news left to report for this live stream, but let me take a minute or two before I continue. And once again, highlight that this media project only exists as long as I have your support or community support. And if you like my work, if you potentially want to see further development of this project, which is not easy but possible, please consider to support. You can do it through several means during the live streams. You can use super chat feature on Rumble to donate. Also, you can become a premium subscriber on Rumble. Also, there is a PayPal and Boosty options to donate, and you can always subscribe to my Patreon page or page on Boosty, and you can choose your level of monthly support there. It starts from $5 a month, and then it's up to you, by the way. With what amount you can support this project, and for how long. Many thanks to everybody who already supported and continues to support and keeps me in this extremely difficult field, by the way, difficult and highly competitive field of news and political commentary. I mean, I have to compete with their massive channels, by the way, right? And my yesterday's second update, second live stream, which was a live stream, by the way, did failed big time because of this competition. Very same time, Daniel Davis started his live stream. He had a guest, Douglas McGregor, and I guess this is one of the reasons why there was far fewer members of our community on my stream yesterday. Video only get like 800 plus views, although it was packed with the news, by the way, right? Relevant news, sir. Anyways, dear friends, all the links if you want to support are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment term. And let's continue now with our news. As I said, a lot is happening, by the way, lots going on. And well, you know what? Let me take down news that I already shared so that StreamYard would not be overloaded. And our next news is about Washington's plans, by the way, to force Europeans to impose some more sanctions and tariffs on Russia and Russian allies, Russian trade partners. And let me give you this report, for example, that according to RIA Novosti, Trump, and I mentioned this in previous updates, that Trump says he's ready for a second round of sanctions against Russia. He didn't elaborate what he means by this, right? But what we know for sure is Washington is putting pressure on Europeans, globalist control regimes in Europe, to impose more sanctions on Russia, to impose tariffs on Russian partners, India, China, Brazil, everybody, right? And I guess it is highly likely that U.S. leadership might find itself in a situation that happened during their recent SCO summit, by the way, that took place in Tianjin city of China. And allegedly, according to reports that I see on Russian segment of internet, US was actually ignored by China big time, right? Exactly at the time of this Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit. Reports are that China refused the US proposal for a phone call between defense minister of China and they call it now war minister or war secretary or something, isn't it? In US during on the eve of CSTO summit, there is a lack of prospect for a mutual understanding in the current circumstances, according to Chinese diplomats. We have quote here: "Is there any sincerity in under significance if of any communication like this. Liu Pengyi, Chinese embassy spokesman, has stated. So this is a quite embarrassing stuff for the US, isn't it? That China is refused to even have a phone conversation on eve of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and Washington, if Washington will continue to pressure everybody in this world, left and right, then I guess more and more often they will find themselves in very this situation when they are just ignored completely, right? And therefore, I don't know, Washington have to do something about its foreign policies, about its attitude towards a trade war, tariff wars, because prospects for US is getting grimmer and grimmer, by the way, to maintain more or less significant role on a geopolitical scale. Trump is destroying US stance in this world, and very rapidly, especially with this trade war, when he's targeting literally everybody. And this is crazy, isn't it? Also, dear friends, it's not just a Trump, but Treasury Secretary of US, Scott Bessent, is also on daily basis on different TV shows in US, and he is predicting that more sanctions will finally destroy Russian economy, and Moscow will be forced to obey orders from the West to take whatever proposals West will come up with, which is insanity, isn't it? Which is insanity. And we have this report, dear friends, from RT, that Trump's Treasury Secretary stated that we are prepared to increase pressure on Russia, but we need the European partners to follow us. Bessent parrots Wall Street Journal article, race between what can hold up longer Ukrainian military or Russian economy, and usually emphasis always are on oil, right? Oil and gas. Whenever Washington or representatives of the Washington are talking about in regards to Russia and additional sanctions or tariffs and so on, and either these people, only question I have, are these people really that stupid and ill-informed, or they are just misleading public for whatever reasons? Because just a week ago, isn't it? About a week ago, 10 days ago, I reported on statements of Russian finance minister and the Russian prime minister that shared the actual stats on Russian economy, and based on the first 6 months, by the way, right? I believe it was the first 6 months of this year, 73% of income in Russian budget was from sectors that are non-related to oil and gas. So what are they talking about? Why they still are pushing this false narrative that Russia is a gas station and only oil revenues are allowing Moscow to sustain this fight against the West? That Russia didn't want it, by the way. Let's be clear on that. It was a collective West that provoked this proxy war, right? But nevertheless, these Western public figures or Western media still pushes this false narrative, completely false narrative, that Russia is dependent tremendously on oil revenues, gas revenues, and if they will manage to force all the countries in this world to cut ties with Russia, cut cooperation between them and Russia, especially in energy field, then Russian economy will collapse. What is wrong with these people, man? Already we have stats, right, for this year. First 6 months, 73% was a number, by the way. 73% of the revenue was from segments of economy that not related with their oil and gas industries, right? So how Russia is a gas station, or if, for example, Russia, Washington or Brussels actually managed, and London did manage to force all the countries in this world, which is not even theoretically possible, but as a thought experiment, if they even manage to force everybody to stop buying Russian oil, and what, right? 70 in first 6 months, income of Russian budget was 73% from non-oil and gas sectors. Towards the end of the year, this number will reach 80%. quite sure about it because it's a summer, by the way, it's harvest time, right? Russian agriculture gonna do its thing now, and Russia is their biggest, right, major food supplier to this world, right? So I mean, they're gonna put their share now into budget, agricultural companies, right? So this number, 70%, will most likely reach at least 75, potentially 80%. And if you keep in mind that Russia has about 600 or 700 billion, by the way, dollars in reserves in different funds, then what these Westerners, Western public figures and media outlets are talking about, that if they manage to force India to stop buying Russian oil, then Russian economy will collapse, or if they force China, for that matter. It's insanity, isn't it? But unfortunately, vast majority of public in the West, I guess, actually believes in this nonsense. Actually believes in this nonsense. Also, a question I have, I mean, I struggle to believe that these people that are formally at least in charge of US or other Western countries are really that stupid. I mean, they could not be that stupid. I mean, they just cannot, right? So therefore, they are actually intentionally misleading public, right? And question I have, why? For what purpose? They are constantly lying to the public in regards to Russia and in regards to everything else, by the way, right? What is the point in this, in spreading of this total nonsense? I don't get it, man. I just don't get it, right? But this is a big topic. This is a big topic in the West to put more sanctions on Russia. Maybe one of the reasons why US is decided to force their European allies to come up with more sanctions is that they know Europe will be hurt big time, right? They are already hurt. European economies already are, in decline due to deterioration, significant deterioration of their trade relationships with Russia. But I guess Washington is not happy with the speed of the industrialization of the Europe and their migration of the European migration of their manufacturing plants from Europe to US. They want to accelerate this process, maybe, and that's why potentially they are forcing European countries to also come up with their all sorts of sanctions on Russia and their tariffs against Russian partners. Does it make sense, by the way? Maybe that's why Washington is pushing on this stuff. I don't know. But also, dear friends, we have this report from Financial Times, which is interesting, I guess, that US tells EU to stop buying Russian oil and gas if it wants Washington to tighten sanctions on Russia. US Energy Secretary in interview to Financial Times, Chris Wright, calls on Europeans to buy American liquefied natural gas instead. I mean, they're already buying, by the way. Is this person even informed that just recently Trump was in Europe and, in very pompous atmosphere, he presented to public agreement together with Ursula von der Leyen, head of European Commission, agreement that was reached between Washington and Brussels that Europeans going to buy, next 3 years, by the way, Europeans going to buy LNG from US worth 250 billion or something, right? So basically, Europeans already are buying whatever US can provide. And I believe two-thirds of LNG exported from US is going to Europe. So what this individual, Chris Wright, who is a high-ranking official, by the way, is even talking about, calling Europeans to buy US natural gas. They're already doing this, right? And for quite a while, actually. He also adds that EU discussing sanctions against China for acquiring Russian gas and oil. And let's see, by the way, let's see if Washington will be able to demolish EU's relationships in a same successful manner as they did with their EU-Russia relationships, if they manage to demolish relationships of EU with China, India, Brazil, and others too, right? Because if Washington is successful in that, I mean, I guess Europe will end up in a very dark place much sooner than I was expecting. My prediction is that in 20, 30 years, Europe, EU member states and the UK, by the way, will be in a either completely irrelevant, by the way, on a geopolitical scale, or very loosely relevant, right? And this is inevitable at this point. But I was saying 20, 30 years. But if Washington succeeds to force European elites to destroy their economical ties with not just Russia, but also China, India, Brazil, other BRICS member states, and there are other countries in this world that are cooperating with Russia, then Europe gonna end up in that dark place much sooner than 20, 30 years. Would you agree with me on that? This is insanity what's happening, and globalists and globalist control regimes in Europe are so desperate to keep US in this proxy war against Russia because they know on their own they cannot withstand this fight. So they are so desperate to keep US in this proxy war that they will probably do whatever Washington will demand. There is a high possibility of that. So they are already destroying their economies and will continue to do so. And I mean, if there was any time to wake up for European societies, I mean, that time was yesterday and day before yesterday, but hopefully at least they will wake up today, right? Because tomorrow might be just too late, or tomorrow may not even come. That's how bad situation in Europe might get. And on the very same topic, dear friends, we have this report that EU special representatives for sanctions, EU special representative for sanctions, David O'Sullivan, has already arrived in Washington for talks with US on tightening measures against Russia, according to Sky News. Bloomberg, on the other hand, reports that Brussels hopes to coordinate some of its latest steps with Washington. The EU is preparing its 19th sanctions package, which may for the first time include restrictions on Kazakhstan to curb the re-export of certain goods into Russia. And by the way, when it comes to Kazakhstan, this is also there are also rumors, by the way, that for this 19th sanctions package, European bureaucrats are considering to take some measures against China and India and other countries, Brazil and so on, right? But when it comes to Kazakhstan, one should keep in mind that Kazakhstan is quite a big player on the energy market, right? And the biggest investor in Kazakhstan energy sector is US companies. So maybe globalists and globalist control regimes are trying to kind of fool the US, right? Because I don't think Washington will be particularly keen or happy if Kazakhstan will get targeted with European sanctions and the tariffs, because it's US companies, by the way, that are making billions on Kazakhstani oil, right? Anyways, the new measures could also target additional Russian banks, energy companies, and the cryptocurrency exchanges in an effort to limit oil trade. Okay, by the way, seems like when it comes to European sanctions on Russia, it definitely seems like these European bureaucrats are sitting there and literally doing some brainstorm to come up with some ideas what else to sanction. And as time goes by, their sanctions, by the way, are becoming more and more ridiculous, right? More and more ridiculous. And there were occasions, by the way, when they were sanctioning same companies. Actually, same companies, same people, right? Same sectors, because they just don't know what to sanction more. It's already 20 to 30,000 sanctions on Russia. And this narrative of more sanctions on Russia still being used for all sorts of manipulations, isn't it, in the West? Crazy, but that's where West is right now, right? RT is also reporting that while Europe is being tricked basically by Washington to accelerate destruction of its own industrial complex, its economies, head of Gazprom, by the way, Miller, is reporting that warning basically EU to prepare for cold winter, right? And let me give you some details on that. The EU could face a major gas shortage if the region is hit by cold winter. Gazprom CEO Alexei Miller has warned, citing data from Gas Infrastructure Europe. Gazprom said that as of August, only two-thirds of their gas withdrawn from their European storage facilities last winter had been replenished. After 5 months of injections, the shortfall of 18.9 billion cubic meters was their second largest on record for that date. So, I mean, and this is a big deal, by the way. We are talking about these underground gas storage facilities that Europe is using during their winter time, right? And they are very short to compensate for the gas that they used last winter. 18.9 billion cubic meters, by the way. That's quite a lot, right? Gazprom, once the EU's main supplier, reduced its exports to the bloc dramatically 3 years ago following Western sanctions and the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines. Russian gas exports accounted for 40% of the bloc's total supply before the escalation of the conflict and imposition of unilateral sanctions by the Brussels. We have quote here, we are now seeing the situation already worsening. This is what we have been talking about. Another year will pass, and where else can it go? If there is a normal cold winter, this will become a real problem, Miller told Russia's TASS news agency on the sidelines of their Eastern Economic Forum on Sunday. The EU does not fully grasp the scale of their challenge in refilling underground gas storage ahead of their heated season, Miller warned, adding that there is a little time left to address the issue. The bloc imports nearly 90% of its natural gas, and Russia still supplies a significant share despite sanctions. European, okay, by the way, Miller did make the point, isn't it? Miller did make a point. If winter is cold, really cold, this year, then it's European countries gonna feel that, and big time, right? And this issue, by the way, will not disappear next year or year after, because yet again, 90% of gas that Europe consumes is imported gas, right, from all over the world. And as rest of the world is increasing, right, GDPs of the rest of the world is increasing, economies are developing, of course, demand for energy is increasing also. And the Europeans will find themselves in a very difficult situation, even to compete with their Asian countries, or even to compete with countries from other parts of this world, right? Because yet again, there is only so much supply on the market. Interesting news there from Miller. And also, by the way, tariff guru Peter Navarro, who is a US tariff guru, Peter Navarro, who is an advisor to White House in economical stuff, by the way, slams Russia, China, and India once again, calls them vampires who are sucking their blood. And by the way, I saw a video when Navarro was talking about some nonsense, and he said that, well, these countries, I mean, Russia, China, and India, I mean, they are conducting trade unfairly with the US, and they are so bad, right? If we're not trade with the US, these countries would collapse. And he was on full seriousness saying this nonsense, right? This idiot, by the way, who is appointed as an advisor in economical stuff, by the way, for White House, this idiot don't even know that the trade between Russia and the US is almost non-existent. It's like a couple of billions a year, by the way, right? Literally, it's a couple of billions in a year, and it's US that buys stuff from Russia mainly. It's not the other way around. It's the US that still buys Russian stuff. So what he's talking about there, and one should also keep in mind, dear friends, that for US, China may be one of the main suppliers of all sorts of goods and services, right? But for Chinese economy, US market is only about 18% or something. These people that are in high-ranking position in US clearly are misunderstanding what's going on, misunderstanding Chinese uh, power of Chinese economy and the export potential, right? They are downgrading China while clearly struggling to have a proper understanding of their own self and where they are. I mean, where US is in this world, right? Because if trade between US and China, for example, as a thought experiment, is cut right now, immediately, right, 100%. Well, China might have some issues, but they will eventually direct this 18% somewhere else, right? Chinese economy not going to collapse, but can you imagine, by the way, what will happen in US markets if suddenly Chinese goods disappear completely, 100%? I believe some 50%, if not more, goods, by the way, are imported from China in US. So what Navarro is talking about, and how come that this stupid individual is a economical advisor of White House? He don't knows that trader between Russia and US almost non-existent compared to trade between US and China, for example, right? He has no freaking idea about it. And it's only a couple of $1 billion, and even then, it's US that buys mainly Russian stuff. So he don't knows this. He don't knows this balance in economies between US and China. So what he knows then? Why he is advisor of White House? What he actually knows? Nothing. Maybe he is a friend of Trump, by the way, and that's why he's been appointed. Maybe this is the explanation there, because this guy is a stupid one. Clearly, this is a stupid freaking individual, right? He might have diplomas from Yale, Yale, Columbia University, and elsewhere. He might brought 5 kilos of diplomas from all sorts of Western corrupt universities, but he's clearly stupid, man. These broad diplomas will not give you complex thinking ability, man, or the education, actual education, right? Anyways, dear friends, and this idiot Navarro was cheerleading these tariffs on India, by the way, and look what they did to relationships between Washington and New Delhi. They destroyed, and now they are whining that, well, India is building up relationships with China. Really? Is what it was not you that forced India to do so? And now you are complaining? Come on, man. I mean, is there any serious people left in so-called elites of the West? I don't know. But when it comes to India, by the way, despite all the pressure on this great country, well, position of New Delhi is strong. India will undoubtedly buy oil from Russia, and no one gonna influence this India's policies, by the way, right? That's the report we have here. I can give you some details. India will undoubtedly be buying Russian oil. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman told the news outlet Network 18 on Friday. In an interview, she reiterated that government's stated policy that their South Asian nations' oil purchases are driven by its own economic priorities and not external pressure. Whether it's Russian oil or anything else, it is our decision to buy from their place that suits our needs, whether in terms of rates or logistics. Sitharaman stated, where we buy our oil from, especially a big ticket foreign exchange item where we pay so much, highest in terms of import, we will have to take a call on what suits us best. We will undoubtedly be buying, she said. And well, good for India, by the way, because Indian companies are making good buck, right? While being basically middlemen for this world when it comes to Russian oil and oil products, right? India buys Russian oils. Parts of it is used on domestic markets, of course, but rest is either refined and then sold as oil products or sell directly as oil. And I believe because of the Western sanctions, Western pressure on India, I mean, allegedly, according to some reports that I see, Russia is selling now oil to India to compensate, by the way, for all the troubles that India is going through due to cooperation with Russia. Russia is selling now oil with a $3 or $4 discount for a barrel, which is a lot, by the way, because India is buying 1.5, 1.6 million barrels per day, sometimes more, sometimes less, but around that. So if you calculate, by the way, it's quite a money, right? Quite a big amount of money that Indian companies actually making on top of whatever they were making before. And this is a gesture of a goodwill from Russian side. I said the BRICS member states should stay with India and assist India in these difficult times, and Russia is doing it, by the way. I mean, $3-4 discount on a barrel, on a single barrel. This is a big deal, man. We are talking about billions and billions, right? So, okay, that's been said, dear friends. There is more news, of course, that I want to share. And the Middle East. The next topic is Middle East. And well, officials of Israeli regime, by the way, day in, day out, are threatening Palestinians literally on daily basis. They are dropping some leaflets all over the Gaza City, for example, and calling the survivors of Israeli genocide to flee the city, right? For example, yesterday I saw this report that a powerful hurricane will strike the skies of Gaza City. According to its defense minister of Israel, Katz, right? This is a final warning to the murderers and the rapists of Hamas in Gaza and luxury hotels abroad. Release the hostages and lay down your weapons, or Gaza will be destroyed. I mean, Gaza is already destroyed. So what these psychopaths are talking about? And Israel is led by psychopaths, by the way, clearly. I mean, they have no empathy to other people, absolutely not, right? These are actual fascists, by the way, modern day fascists. That's what majority Israelis are, by the way. And of course, government of Israel too. Israel itself is a fascist entity, period. There is nothing to discuss there. It's just factual, right? And there is another one, so-called foreign minister of Israel, Gideon Sar, that stated that Israel rejects plans to create a Palestinian state, says such a terrorist state would have only one goal, the elimination of Israel. If there is any terrorist states, by the way, in this world, first of all, it's Israel. If there is any terrorist state in this world, fascist state, disgrace of humanity, it's Israel as a state and Israelis, by the way. Israelis, majority of Israelis are disgrace of humanity. Let's be real on that. These are freaking fascists, by the way, right? Majority. I'm not saying that one is crazy there or two or five. Majority of Israelis are freaking fascists, man, psychos. They've been brainwashed to that condition that they actually are fascists, by the way. They don't see other people to be humans. They are indoctrinated in that seeker ideology, right? That they are God-chosen people and the rest there is just decoration. And they can do anything with this decoration. That's their seeking ideology, man. And this scum of humanity is talking about other people and calling others terrorists. What the hell, man? What the hell? Unbelievable. It is a shame that Hungary actually received this scum of humanity, so-called foreign minister of Israel. I said a million times before, by the way, only way forward if world community actually exists, right? Only way forward in regards to Middle East, if we want to have a sustainable peace there, is to get together for a world community, to get together and demilitarize Israel, this fascist entity, Israel, and to and the Israeli society, Israelis to undergo denazification programs, if that will help. Because now they clearly are absolutely zombified, by the way, with their hate and with their sickening ideology, absolutely, right? And maybe denazification programs will help them, right? But this has to be done. If we actually want peace, by the way, in the Middle East, otherwise, Israel going to continue, and Israel is going to continue to kill everybody that they want. That's what they do, by the way. They kill left and right everybody. They don't even consider those killed people to be human beings. That's the truth, by the way. They don't really care, right? Because they don't see us, none of us, by the way. If you think they don't see Palestinians only as a non-humans, no, man. In their crazy ideology, they are God-chosen people, and the rest is a decoration. Rest of us are not humans. And they are treating Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, all of them as a non-humans or subhumans. That's their ideology. So there can be no sympathy towards these psychos, man, towards these freaking fascists, right? World has to get together, demilitarize this fascist entity, Israel, and force Israelis to undergo denazification programs. So maybe they will become normal people again, right? Because they are not right now. Majority, I'm talking about. Majority of Israelis are not fucking decent human beings. They are scum of humanity, period. Mass murderers, man, and genocidal maniacs. And on the matter, by the way, we have statement of UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk at HRC 60 conference, I guess, in Geneva, who said, and this is quote, "I'm horrified by open use of genocidal rhetoric and the disgraceful dehumanization of the Palestinians by senior Israeli officials," he's saying. And well, even though he is on point, by the way, there, right? Everyone is horrified with the actions that these fascist Israelis are committing, with crimes that these fascist Israelis are committing, right, against humanity. But you are representing UN, for God's sake. What UN is doing to stop this massacre of their civilians? What UN did to stop this massacre, man? Why General Secretary of UN will not call emergency assembly of UN and come up with the idea to build up UN forces, UN military forces, right? And then go ahead with the demilitarization of Israel and then denazification. Why UN is not doing what is necessary to be done? Just statements. I mean, what these statements gonna do? Nothing, right? Nothing. And by the way, I mean, Israelis, after Israelis are committing decades after decades after decades, these tremendous crimes against humanity, against Palestinians to be specific, no wonder some of the Palestinians are losing the mind, by the way, and they're committing some atrocities on their behalf too, right? And some of those people that maybe lost everyone in their families after seeing all the atrocities that Israel committed, went on a killing spree, conducted terrorist attack in Israel. This happened yesterday, I believe. They opened fires. Some people opened fire on the bus station, and as a result, 4 people were killed in Jerusalem, by the way, and 25 people was in serious condition, and overall 20 people were also wounded. There can be no justification, obviously, for terrorist attacks on civilians, right? Those people were not combatants. They might be brainwashed, and they're all in support of all the crimes that Israeli authorities are committing, but nevertheless, they are not combatants, right? You cannot target them. best you can do is to force them to undergo denazification program, so that maybe they will realize that all of us are humans, right? And they cannot treat rest of their humanity as if we are freaking, I don't know, man, nobodies, right? So yeah, unfortunately, this terrorist attack happened, which is a tragedy, of course, because yet again, there are civilians. There always has to be distinguished combatant, legit combatant from civilian, right? And even if majority of Israeli civilians are brainwashed into this and indoctrinated into this freaking sickening ideology that they actually are, they still civilians. You cannot target them, right? Best you can do, best humanity can do, is to force them to undergo denazification program, so that maybe they will open their eyes and see reality, right? That we all are humans, by the way. We all are humans, right? Some are good, some are bad, but we are humans. And you cannot treat other people that are not part of your community as some subhumans or just decoration that you can do anything to. And seems like, yet again, I mean, more and more people are getting sick and tired of this fascist Israel. Understandably so, absolutely understandably so. There is a massive demonstrations all over the world, right? Especially in the Western world countries, by the way, because Western countries are actually ones that are part of this genocide, participants of this genocide that Israel is committing against Palestinians, right? It's the Western countries that are providing money and the weapons and political cover too, political and media cover, right? And therefore, understandably, public in the Western countries are disguised, ashamed of such a behavior of their leadership, and they are protesting against it, right? And due to these protests of their people, some of the countries, some of the political leadership of those countries are kind of cornered and have no option but to come up with some, not just statements, but to take even actual steps to deter Israel, at least try. And for example, Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has announced a complete embargo on arms sales to Israel, and I believe Spain recalled its ambassador from Israel too, which is a good step for sure. This is a good step, by the way. All Western countries should do the same. Stop any arms supply, any weapon supply, munition supply to Israel, impose complete embargo on that, and use whatever political stand you have or venue you have to call for the rest of the world to do something, right, about this tremendous atrocities that Israel is committing. So I may have no respect for Spanish leadership, and I certainly don't, by the way, for obvious reasons. These criminals are directly engaged in this proxy war against Russia, right? But nevertheless, if they are capable of doing something, at least something good, even if it's not related to Russia, then I will acknowledge that, right? Credit should be given when it's deserved. So in this particular case, Madrid did something good, right? To cutting, while cutting this weapon supplies, munition supplies to fascist Israel. And also when it comes to, interesting news, by the way, interesting news here, that Banksy, famous British street painter, how should I call him? Banksy, famous British artist, by the way, right? Painted their new stuff, and actually, because he painted, and you can see his paints, by the way, on your screen right now. Judge is beating a protester with a sign with that is in the bloods right there. Some might assume that these are protesters, by the way, that are protesting genocide of Palestinians, right? And British judge is beating this protester. That's their idea of this paint. And Banksy's personality might get revealed, by the way, right? Banksy's personality might get revealed because wall of the building that he painted this is a protected building or something, right? An investigation has to be conducted now. So soon the world might actually receive the name of this famous painter. But when it comes to this particular report, sir, as I said, a new Banksy just being dropped at the Royal Courts of Justice in London, depicting a judge striking a protester as the blood splatters their placards. Their artwork follows the arrest of 890 people at the pro-Palestinian protest in London 2 days prior to that. So it is related to Palestine, I believe. Although, by the way, UK is undergoing some very strange times, by the way, and there are protests day in, day out, and this globalist control regime in London is suppressing not just protests against Israeli terrific crimes and genocide, but people are also trying to defend their identity in UK, their culture, their country. They are protesting, and they've been treated in the very same way, right? People being arrested for carrying Union Jack, for example. Just a couple of days ago, I shared information about it, isn't it? So yes, UK is on the brink of civil war for sure. It seems like. So yes, that's when it comes to this particular news. New Banksy painter was dropped, and he clearly demonstrates his stand there with this paint. And when it comes to Israeli actions, by the way, we have this report that last night Israeli airstrikes targeted the coastal city of Latakia in Syria, and also 19th Regiment base near Homs. Two waves of strikes targeted the Shinshar military zone southeast of city. Fighter jets reportedly remain in the air for quite a long time after target was destroyed or attacked. I guess to make sure that nothing survived. And also, when it comes to Middle East, dear friends, we have an interesting report here that Iran to fundamentally transform defense capabilities aimed Israeli threat. A Parliament's Security Commission has stated there in Iran, and the Parliament also ratified their proposal to increase military spending with their extra 5.5 billion euros allocated by oil ministry and other budget organizations to meet army's urgent needs. So yes, a lot of money is going to be spent by Iran on military, on defense, and I guess there are many countries in this world, by the way, BRICS member states, first of all, that will assist Iran to rebuild its air defense systems capabilities, to rebuild its battle capabilities, basically, right? After 12-day war. So I think this is important news too. And dear friends, quite a long stream, isn't it? Quite a long stream. Let me check the time. It's 1 hour and 9 minutes. I was thinking that it might be significantly more. But anyways, let me take a breath, by the way, from news for a minute or two, and I use this time to once again remind you that this project. I'm staying in this business, by the way, of news and political commentary only as long as I have your support. So if you like my work, dear friends, if you want to help, you can do it through several means. All the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And while I'm online, right, as it is right now, you can use super chat feature on Rumble, and also become premium subscriber there on Rumble. I guess there is a magnetic storm again, right? Because this headache, by the way. It's usually indicator that I have high blood pressure, but anyways, it's quite demanding, dear friends. Try to do live stream. To pre-record video is not always easy, but when you are online, it takes more energy for whatever reasons. I don't know why, but sometimes, I mean, when live stream lasts like 2 hours and more, once live stream is ended, I'm like, I don't know, man. I need at least half an hour usually to just, you know, get rest a little bit. Okay, okay. I guess I can continue now. And yes, if you want to support the friends, under this video, you will find some links, and I will remind you that this evening I will have a second news update for you. Most likely walk and talk type of videos, because it seems like even though there is some cloud, there gonna be no rain, so probably I will manage to make a walk and talk video. Okay, dear friends, let me continue now with some more news, and what is the next here? Let me see what is the next. So Venezuela boosts troop deployment in response to U.S. threats. RT is reporting. Let me give you some details on that. So Venezuela is set to boost its military deployment in the coastal and the border states aimed at heightened tensions with the U.S. The move comes after Washington dispatched several warships to the Southern Caribbean last month in what it described as an operation against the drug cartels. Venezuelan Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez announced on Sunday that President Nicolas Maduro had ordered the deployment of all available troops and their equipment to their states of Zulia, Falcon, Nueva Esparta, Sucre, and Delta Amacuro. He added that Caracas will increase troop deployment from around 10,000 to 25,000, noting that the area constitutes a drug trafficking route. No one is going to step on this land and do what we are supposed to do. Padrino said in a video uploaded to a social media. Last month, Venezuela also mobilized 15,000 troops to its border with Colombia. Latest deployment comes amid weeks of rising tensions with Washington. The U.S. has mobilized 3 warships and around 4,000 troops. What 3 warships, man? I believe it's 7 or 8 warships, according to different reports, right? And also 4,000 troops to the Southern Caribbean, saying their operation are aimed at the containing drug cartels. So, I mean, many people are believe that the U.S. it's only a matter of time, and U.S. will conduct a strike on Venezuela, and Caracas is getting ready. By the way, Caracas is getting ready. And dear friends, a few days ago, I reported that Iranian missile boats guard Venezuelan waters. I saw a video, and right now you can see on your screen, by the way, these boats, right? And there are missiles that these boats are carrying. It's a small boats, fast boats, right? That are carrying some machine guns for a close-range fire, and also at least 2 missiles, anti-ship missiles, I assume. And these are Iranian builder boats. I did not know that Venezuela has them, but they do. They do, by the way. So something that U.S. militaries will have to keep in mind for sure. Venezuela not gonna submit, not gonna be forced to submission without fight, I guess. And if Venezuelan people are determined to maintain independence, then they will give a fight. They will give a fight, despite what kind of attitude they have towards their government. That, in my personal opinion, is a failing people of Venezuela. I'm not happy with their Maduro's government. I don't think they are doing good job. I really don't, by the way. But nevertheless, it does not mean that someone can go in and do regime change, by the way, right? It's up to people of Venezuela. They're going to be next elections, and let them choose someone else if they want to, right? Just because this or that government is not working based on our understanding as well as they should, or not means that there should be regime changes there, isn't it? And anyways, dear friends, also let me show you this picture here, some floating platform, oil drilling platform, by the way, that China is bringing in to Venezuela. This is $1 billion project. I reported about it yesterday in my first this walk and talk type of video, I believe. And I just wanted to show you this picture. China is investing big, by the way, in Venezuela, right? And there maybe we will see first time China standing up for against US, or standing up to US while protecting its ally. And Venezuela is, of course, Chinese ally too, right? And the partner, trade partner. Russian trade partner and their ally, and Chinese trade partner ally. And because China is investing this big, and they are expecting to pump some 60,000 barrels per day, by the way, as a result of this project. Maybe China will stand up to US in that region. It's not going to be easy, by the way, because logistically, I mean, where China is much far away than US, right? But it might happen. China might provide, and maybe already are providing, Venezuelan forces with all sorts of weapon systems that will give them edge over the potential invading force, or even this strike group, a naval strike group that the US is assembling not far away from Venezuela's coastline. You might ask, what about Russia? Will Russia support her? Probably yes. Russian Foreign Ministry already stated that they are condemning this US assault on Venezuela. And I'm quite sure, by the way, either on the state level or on the private level, but Venezuela will receive assistance from Russia too. Commerçant newspaper is also reporting that, there was massive demonstrations, by the way, in Istanbul and other cities in Turkey. I think this is also something to pay attention to, because Turkey is trying to play some key role in a bigger Middle East, let's say, and not just there, but elsewhere too, in Central Asia, for example, where Turkey is acting as a British proxy, right, while using its closer ties with their Central Asian republics, Turkic-speaking ones, first of all. I imagine that there is one republic only, one former Soviet republic only in Central Asia that is not Turkic-speaking, Tajikistan. The rest of them are Turkic-speaking, and they are, in some ways, related to Turkey, right? They're one language or similar language, let's say, right? So Turkey was using this as to infiltrate, right, these republics, and they did it on behalf of London. And reasoning is, I mean, this is a big story, but reasoning is that I believe globalist control regimes, Western elites, let's say, want at some point destabilize Central Asian republics, especially ones that are bordering China, and then deploy all sorts of terrorist organizations in the borderline areas, including Uyghur terrorist organizations, Uyghur nationals with Chinese citizenship, by the way, from northern western parts of China, where Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region is located, right? Uyghurs are ethnic minorities, also Turkic-speaking ethnic minority, and thousands of them, by the way, have undergone training in Syria, in Idlib province, right? So all this operation is against China mainly, but no, and Turkey is involved in other places too. I mean, in northern Africa, for example, right? And therefore, it is important to know what is going on there in Turkey. And let me give you some details on these protests. Mass protests have engulfed the center of the Istanbul over the Turkish government's decision to hand over control over their opposition Republican People's Party to its temporary appointee. Activists are chanting the same slogans as during their rallies against the arrest of Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu in March of this year. However, the current events are not the worst for the opposition. It is possible that CHP leader Özgür Özel may be removed from his post by court decision as early as next week. And well, supporters of this party went on rallies, not just in Istanbul, but elsewhere too. There was reports that one of the protesters even opened fire on policemen. Two policemen were wounded, right? And this attacker also was wounded, maybe even killed afterwards, right? I have seen video of that incident, right? So there was some disturbances. In Turkey, and there is a struggle now, isn't it, between these neo-Ottoman forces that Erdogan is leading now, and Hakan Fidan will probably lead after Erdogan's retirement. Hakan Fidan is foreign minister, isn't it, there in Turkey? So there is a struggle between this group, neo-Ottomans, and let's call them like Republicans, more opposition parties that are somewhat related with the Western decision-making centers, right? And who knows which side will prevail. For now, seems like these neo-Ottoman forces are in a better position, but things might change, by the way. It's Turkey, isn't it? A country that is famous for military coups, for coup d'etats, by the way, right? That was taking place on regular basis since the establishment of modern Turkey. So anything is possible there. Also, on the matter of Turkey, a Turkish opposition party, CHP, deputies barricaded themselves inside their provincial building, blocking upper floors to prevent police entry. Clashes between opposition supporters and police have been reported in various cities in Turkey. As I said, I don't know what happened then. Did police manage to get in or not? But yes, some unrest in Turkey, by the way. And well, you might wonder what you are looking at this moment on your screen. This is Germany, by the way. This is Germany. I spoke about this news. I mentioned this news yesterday during the first update, I believe. But I think it's worth our attention because it is important. So on your screen, by the way, is depicted the moment when German citizen was arrested for carrying German flag. He didn't do nothing wrong. I saw video. In that video, at least, there was nothing that this person was doing wrong. He was just carrying German flag, right? He was arrested for that. And on top of it, I can give you information that might shock you, some of you at least, right? But 55% of Germany's new police recruits don't speak German, by the way. I mean, properly, I guess, right? Probably they know a couple of words. I know a couple of German words too, but I don't speak German, right? So probably those recruits, new recruits in German police, do know some German, but not fluently, right? Which is the issue. I mean, if you're serving in the police, you have to know language, for God's sake, right? You just have to. Period. There is nothing to discuss there. So yes, 55% of Germany's new police recruits don't speak German and need extra language training. This is according to Berlin police, by the way. This is according to police of capital of Germany. Authorities cited teacher shortages and increasing diversity in classrooms as a main causes of people lacking knowing German, man. I don't know. Man. These countries, especially in Western Europe, by the way, are in a very dark place, man. People being arrested for carrying a flag, people being arrested for posting some stuff on social media. I saw this morning video, by the way. Person was arrested in UK, and police. There was a policeman there and some others were filming it, and this policeman was explaining that this British citizen was going to be arrested because he shared some post of someone, and that someone, by the way, wrote something on, called the police on him, that this person shared my post and caused anxiety or something. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. This person did not even write nothing. He shared the post of someone else, and that someone else, by the way, was upset, right, about it, and called the police on him. And this poor guy was arrested. It's crazy, right? I'm not even gonna try to understand what the hell is going on there, because I don't have time for that, man. It's insane, you know. You sharing some stuff, by the way, and you are arrested because stuff that you share from. I mean, that person is experiencing some anxiety. What the hell is anxiety, man? How not the meaning of the word itself, but how come that uh, in the West this word of anxiety has been weaponized this much? This causes me anxiety and that causes me anxiety, and you know what? Just live with it, for God's sake. Who cares, right? Life is hard, man. No one told me when I was born and then grew up that life was sugar or something. Just live with it, man. What is wrong with these people? This causes me anxiety. What the hell, man? Grow up. Holy moly. But the numbers, by the way, is quite shocking, isn't it? 55% of police, new recruits in police, have no proper knowledge of the language of the country that they are not just living, but they're gonna serve as a policeman. No, man, this is not the way to go, Germany. I mean, the German people have to do something about it until it's not too late. Maybe it is too late. I don't know. But this is insanity, right? Also, dear friends, when it comes to all sorts of unrests, Nepal is, of course, next in the list of globalists, Western ruling class, to conduct regime change. It seems like, because Western assets use a decision of local authorities to ban certain social media platforms as a reason to rebel, right? And they went on this Western assets went, and their people that have been indoctrinated by them went on a rampage, right? Deadly rampage, by the way, as a result of clashes with the law enforcement agencies and all sorts of criminal activity of these groups. 19 people died and more than 300 were injured. And Nepalese authorities, I guess they get scared, sort of, and they lift their social media ban. It would not help, though. They have to tackle foreign assets, right? That might help, but to play along Western assets, man, never ends well for nobody, right? And Nepal not going to be any different. Seems like, by the way, Western so-called elites are very much focused on destabilization of the global South. Just recently, there was a massive unrest in Indonesia. In some places, still continues, by the way. Now Nepal. I think there are some other countries that are going to be targeted too. Laos is going to be targeted big time. Thailand gonna be targeted by globalists for sure, and Thailand is quite interesting. They have a royal family, by the way. There, it's a monarchy, right? And they have some very strange rules, right? In to protect this royal family institution. And well, because Thailand is quite keen to cooperate with BRICS, I guess they are also in a hit list of their globalists, right? Western ruling class, and many others, by the way. Any country in the global South that allies itself with the BRICS, with the idea of multipolarity, are targets, and very few are not in that region. Philippines, for example. Well, Philippines are already been acting on behalf of US, on behalf of Western elites, escalating with China big time, right? So Philippines probably will avoid regime change, at least for now. And well, which else, man? yet again, any country in the region that allies itself in the multipolarities and BRICS, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, is a target for Western class, Western ruling class, and yet again, best way they can protect themselves is to eliminate Western influence, right? Completely, if possible. Banning this and banning that would not work if you are actually not dealing with the Western assets or foreign assets, let's say, right? Because those assets will indoctrinate more and more people, right? NGOs or NGO stuff, so-called media that is financed from the West and controlled by the West, anything, man. They use all sorts of tricks, right? They have written freaking books about it, man, how to do regime changes, how to infiltrate this country and that country. And they are doing same stuff time and time and again, and usually they are successful in this regime changes, right? They failed for now. They failed to do this in Georgia, at least for now, by the way. They were successful in 2003, but they failed in last several years to remove our current government there of Georgian Dream Party. And hopefully, Georgian Dream Party will manage to neutralize threats that are generated by the West. And well, one might argue Serbia is also managing to withstand the pressure. Current leadership of Serbia, although it's a bit different story. It's a bit different compared to Georgia, by the way. Vucic is a 99% Western asset, right? It's only a few topics that Vucic disagree, right? He does everything that he's ordered by globalists, but there is a few issues that he disagrees, and that's why globalists want to take him out, right? And these issues are recognition of Kosovo as an independent state. Globalists want Belgrade to recognize the Kosovo's independence, and Vucic is refusing to do it, president of Serbia. And there is also Republika Srpska, right? Formerly part of Bosnia-Herzegovina. Globalists want Serbia to cut any ties with the leadership of Bosnian Serbs, right? And to refuse to assist them in any way, shape, or form. And Belgrade is also refusing, at least for now, to do this. Rest, by the way, some might argue, well, the West is also demanding sanctions to be imposed on Russia. Yes, true. Serbia did not impose no sanctions on Russia, but unfortunately, well, Serbia is sending weapons and munition to Kiev-controlled regime, and the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service made, at least on 2 occasions, information available about it. So therefore, this topic of sanctions is a Anyways, let's continue, dear friends. RT is reporting, and all the other media outlets, and majority of you, of course, are familiar with the news that French government has collapsed. So French government has fallen after Prime Minister Francois Barrot lost a crucial confidence vote in the parliament on Monday. Yesterday, Barrot is the second consecutive prime minister under the President Emmanuel Macron to be ousted, throwing the nation into political and economic turmoil. A no confidence motion in their National Assembly requires at least 288 votes to pass. Monday's motion received 364 votes. So with, everybody against this regime, by the way, that Macron is building there. Everybody seems like fed up with it, right? So Monday's motion received 364 votes, with the left-wing New Popular Front and the right-wing National Rally uniting in opposition to end their months-long standoff over the Barrot's austerity budget. Having previously survived 8 no-confidence motions, Barrot called this vote himself in a bid to secure backing for proposals that forecast almost 44 billion euro or $52 billion of savings to ease France's debt burden before the budget is presented in October. So, by the way, Macron and his regime, his officials, want to do some savings, cut on all sorts of social programs, And they want to cut 44 billion euro, by the way. I mean, this is quite a lot of money, isn't it? For any country, including France. And while this is happening, these morons that are being put in position of power in France by globalists, these morons continue to waste French taxpayers' money on Ukraine, on the prolongation of this proxy war against Russia. How crazy is that? They don't have money for their people, but they always have money for a war. That's the West, by the way. That's the modern Western world, right? They never have money and time and anything for their own people, but they always have everything they need for wars, to kill people. Crazy. RIA Novosti is also reporting that EU businesses are closing at the record pace since the 2009. Also interesting report, I think. I said many times before that the industrialization of Europe is factual, right, and accelerating, right? And while now US is pushing EU to destroy its trade relationships in the same way as they did with Russia, to now to do it with China, India, and Brazil and others. Washington wants this deindustrialization to further accelerate, right? Because majority of these companies that are shutting down there in Europe are migrating to US, right? And they want, Washington wants to benefit on that, right? on expense of European economies. And this information confirms basically that situation is quite difficult in European economy. The number of large enterprises, and this is big enterprises, by the way, closing in the EU in 8 months of this year has reached its highest level since the height of the global financial crisis. RIA Novosti calculated based on the data from European Restructuring Monitor. In total, 72 large industrial enterprises in the EU announced plans to cease operations from January 1st to August 31st. The record number was in 2009, when 81 industrial companies closed during the same period. However, even in their coronavirus years, this happened to only 49 enterprises. And we are talking about big companies, by the way, right? With thousands and thousands of employees. 72 of them are shutting down their operations in Europe. Most likely, maybe not all of them, maybe some of them have been damaged so much that they're not going to survive, but at least some of them will move their manufacturing to US. Quite sure about it, right? Unlike previous years, the bulk of companies that closed their doors were in Germany. This year, the closures are occurring almost evenly across all economies. The highest number in Spain, 17, in France, 14, in Czech Republic and Germany, 11, each 11% each. Only one company each in Croatia and Denmark ceased their operations. The result was the dismissal of 18,000 workers in their industrial sector. This is their third result in the history of the EU. Third worst result, I guess. During the height of COVID-19, 18.7 thousand people lost their jobs, and during the global financial crisis, 27.3 thousand. This is industrial sector, big companies in the industrial sectors, by the way, that are employing thousands and thousands of people. When it comes to small and medium businesses, I mean, they are in a free fall. They are in absolute free fall, by the way, for a very, very long time now. And that's why local economies, by the way, either in Germany or in UK or France or elsewhere, are in a recession, right? Either on the edge of recession or in a recession. And what else? Few more news, dear friends. Besant again. I want to share with you some of the statements that Besant made. He was interviewed by NBC. He's always on TV, by the way. How come these people have so much time? I mean, so much free time on their hands. I mean, do they have anything to do in their workplaces that they are getting wages for? What the hell, man? How come these people constantly are on a TV and constantly are giving interviews to all sorts of newspapers, man? It's insane, isn't it? But anyways, this Besant went to be interviewed by NBC, and he stated that 86% tariff revenue collected from Americans. This is NBC statement. Do you acknowledge tariffs are tax on Americans? NBC's journalist or whoever was interviewing this person, because I don't believe NBC has any journalists, right? They're all propagandists, by the way. They are just working for different groups of influence, right? And Treasury Secretary Besant said that he don't believe that these tariffs are actually taxes on the Americans. He is refusing to acknowledge objective reality. Of course, these tariffs are taxes, stealth tax, by the way, right, on Americans, because what you think with prices, who's gonna pay for this increased price for imports? Taxpayers, right? Consumers. Who else gonna pay for it, man? If you are importing, let's say, some I don't know, some vehicle from China, let's say, or let's say if you were importing watch from Switzerland, right? If that watch was costing $10,000 prior to this trade war that Trump initiated, now Switzerland is tariffed 39% or something, right? So this watch will cost 39% more, at least, right? For an importer company. This Swiss company, let's say Rolex, for example, will sell this watch for 10,000 again, maybe for 11. But it's a company that imports in US. It's a US company that imports these watches and then sells on the US market, that have to pay this 39% tariffs, isn't it? So therefore, they have to sell this watch not for 10 or 11,000, or let's say 15,000 to make some profit on it, but they have to sell at least 39, 40% more, right? To stay in business. And who's gonna pay for it? Of course, whoever buys that watch. And that is a tax, stealth tax on Americans, right? And same goes for anything, by the way. It's not just watch, but watch, car, some I don't know, clothes, or whatever, microphone and notebook, or anything. It's a tax. And this individual, Scott Besant, has no care about what people will think about it. Or maybe he thinks that people are stupid and would not understand nothing. But he is on public, on a TV, is refusing to acknowledge objective reality, that 2 plus 2 is 4, right? Isn't that insane? And people like that have no respect to intellect of their people, have no respect to people themselves, right, are in charge. What the hell, man? Few more news, dear friends, and I will end this news segment on that. Good news for Russian aerospace industry. Aeroflot, after signing up a contract for 18 MS-21 planes that are going to go in serial production in a short time, is hinting that they might actually increase the order by another 90 aircraft, which is of course going to be big deal, by the way, big deal. And according to and Aeroflot is the biggest avio company here in Russia, by the way. Other avio companies also will of course order these planes, and allegedly by 2033, 2035, about 50% of a fleet of Russian avio companies will be domestically built planes. MS-21, TU uh, 204 super jets or whatever, right? So for 2033, 2035, about 50% of the fleet of avio companies could be and should be Russian built, completely Russian, by the way, right? Everything Russian in these planes, which is a good, of course, which is a good, but yet again, I mean, can you imagine how many planes, man, these avio companies have that even in 10 years from now, they wouldn't be able to replace them all, right? By Russian planes. I would like all avio companies, all Russian avio companies to fly exclusively Russian planes, exclusively, right? Let Russian avio companies, Russian aerospace industry benefit, by the way, right? Why Russian avio companies should pay anything to Airbus and Boeing and so on? So, okay, some statistics here, by the way. There are reasons to be optimistic for the Russian aerospace industry. And there, a couple of days ago, I reported that Russian and Indian aerospace industries are considering cooperation, which will, of course, be a tremendous jump for both sides, right? Jump forward. Because, well, Russian market is quite bigger, and the Indian market is uncomparably bigger, right? So if if aerospace industries of two countries will cooperate in this field to build together planes, that will be big success. I mean, success will be guaranteed, by the way. Success will be guaranteed, right? And they might actually, at one point, maybe in 10 years, 15 years, but at one point they will reach a position when they will be seen as a competitor by Boeing and Airbus that are dominating market right now. And by the way, yesterday, Russian president, as I reported earlier, participated in a emergency BRICS summit that was called by Brazil's leadership. They discussed main topics of discussion was Western assault on multipolarity on BRICS member states and how BRICS going to react on it. But the summit was in a closed format, and very little is actually known about actual substance that leaders of the BRICS countries spoke about during this video link summit. And the press spokesman of the Russian president stated that Putin's speech at the BRICS summit is not planned to be open to media. The event is held in a closed format, so therefore probably we would not learn much about response that BRICS is preparing to protect its member states, interests of its member states. But of course, they will come up with something, right? And I'm quite sure they also discussed situation around Venezuela, how it is interesting what kind of stance BRICS will have in regards to this country that has a big interest to cooperate with BRICS member states, Shanghai Cooperation Organization member states, with the rest of the world, right? So we might learn something about it in upcoming days. And that's it for this quite a longer news segment, by the way. A lot of news, isn't it? Hopefully you did find this news segment informative and useful. I don't know, a couple of dozens of news, by the way, at least, right? And well, there was no super chat during this almost 2 hour stream, no donations, so therefore I don't really have anything to highlight in this regard. And let me then join for a couple of minutes community chat. I will scroll through the chat and I will try to react on what? Oh, there was a PayPal. Oh, there was a donation on the PayPal, dear friends, from Julie. Thank you very much for your $20 donation, Julia. And there is a comment also. I think I thank you. I thank her. You gift her what? Thank you, gifter. It may have been the changer in a schedule that caused the lower viewers count yesterday. I watched their walk and talk. I guess that's what you yes, what the walk and talk, but have not had the time yet to see at least some of their others. So this is the comment from Julius. Sorry that I struggled to read there straight away. I'm tired, man. I'm 2 hours already in doing this new segment. So thank you very much, Julie, for your $20 donation, kind words, and the commentary. Thank you. There was a donation through PayPal, by the way, there. And let me go through community chat now. Once again, thank you all dear friends for your time and attention. If you like the video, if you like the news segment, if you find it informative enough, please like the video, dear friends. This your likes might actually help to reach wider audience, so it matters. And if you can, please share link of this live stream or any other my videos, by the way, with your friends. This will also help, of course, to reach wider audience. There was a times when my channel was not in this strict shadow ban as it is right now. When quite some time my videos did had 500 plus likes, and when that was the case, and about 100 comments, maybe even more, and when that was the case, algorithm was actually beginning to show my videos to in recommendations, and whenever like numbers were 1,000, view numbers were always in tens of thousands, right? Over 10,000 for sure, right? So this, I guess, these likes and comments do influence the algorithm, even if your channel is in shadow ban, as mine is. So if you can, please like the video. Dear friends, I see comments that you wrote in the beginning when there was some technical issues. I will deal with it. I will deal with it. Unfortunately, I'm not that good there to understand well enough how these all programs are working, right? But I try my best to make sure that sound is good. Alexandria Black is commenting, Levan, go catch what Pascal lately covered about Armenia on neutrality studies. Oh, thank you for a recommendation. Thank you, Alexandria. Okay. I see a question from Nidish Kumar. Maybe he wants to go to isolation and have control over Americans. That looks like his plan along with the EU. What do you think? Or maybe he wants to go to isolation. You mean US to go in isolation? No, man. Everything that we are seeing right now is indicates that all this U.S. Ruling class is focused on right now is reindustrialization of the U.S. mainly on expense of EU, prolongation of all the conflicts, all the wars that there is, right? You don't believe, of course, that Trump, what is Trump is saying that he ended some 7 wars. What 7 wars he's talking about? U.S. leadership will do everything to prolong as much as they can all the wars because they are benefiting from that, right? U.S. military-industrial complex, that is. Isolationism is a part of U.S. history, right? Political culture, in some ways, but right now I don't think how this might happen because yet again U.S. still is an enforcer in hands of Zionists and globalists, right, and the neocons, and while U.S. as a state is an enforcer in hands of these influential international, let's say, groups, how U.S. gonna go isolationist? It's just technically not possible, isn't it? And to be honest, I'm not quite sure if even Washington understands what they actually want. They are just too chaotic, right? Take a look at this sanction war and tariff war that they come up with there. What is that? Does it looks like they actually had some plan in place? No, it does not looks like that. There is a chaos, some sort of a chaos in West in general and in US also. So, dear friends, I will just remind you that on Sunday we have a big community chat that might last, and also fundraising that might last 3 hours and more, as it was the case last Sunday. And during this big community chat, I'm taking my time while going through comments. Today and in the work days, during the work days, I will just scroll, fast through chat. After the stream, I can go through chat, take my time, but I need to end the live stream, isn't it? These live streams are just too long, man. I have to do something about it. Question from Avalanche: why Russia don't stop this Zionist Israeli? How come? What can Russia alone do, by the way? This has to be done by international community. This has to be done by international community. There have to be gathering of their countries from all over the world, and they have to make decisions. There is UN, by the way, isn't it? And there was a precedence before when UN forces were deployed during the Korean War, by the way. It was US militaries and militaries of other countries were operating under UN mandate. It was UN forces, right? So we have in history such cases. So why would not UN, for example, would take a lead and organize world community, allow world community to come up with its military force, then issue final warning to Israel, get demilitarized and denazified, or action will be taken. If Israel will listen, okay, it's always better to deal with their difficult situations peacefully. But if Israeli regime will refuse, then action to be taken, right, or should be taken by UN forces. That's how I see the situation, right? But is it possible that this will happen? Theoretically, maybe, but in reality, I don't know why UN didn't act already. But what Russia alone gonna do? You don't expect Russia to send its troops, isn't it? I mean, you don't expect Russia to declare war on Israel. Huh? This has to be done by world community because it's a shame on humanity, by the way. that these atrocities was allowed to happen that Israel is committing. And all whole world have to take a stand here, I think. Why Russia alone? I mean, and how Russia alone? If it's a world community, then Israel should be isolated, right? But I mean, if Russia alone goes ahead with some steps, then that might provoke World War III too, right? Because who is the number one ally of this fascist Israel? It's the U.S., right? It's U.S., by the way, and other NATO countries. Oh, it is clearly freaking magnetic storm, by the way, for sure. If you are weather sensitive, then take some precautions. So whenever there is a magnetic storm, unfortunately, I'm feeling high blood pressure. That this comes with age, isn't it? This Friday, I will be 48. I mean, time is flying, man. So 48. And yes, I mean, for the last several years, I mean, after 45, maybe even a bit earlier than that, I began noticing that well, blood pressure is becoming an issue. Ideally I have to go to see doctor, by the way, but you know this fatalist mindset that whatever has to happen will happen actually influences my takes on life, in my personal life too. And that's why I'm not going to doctor. I did not go, at least until now, to drink some freaking medicine and just. But anyways, man, as I said, whatever has to happen will happen. So there's no reason to worry about it too much. Okay, I mean, I guess, dear friends, I will end this live stream on that. I'm quite sure I did miss quite a few questions that were directed to me. I see right now one. David King is commenting: should BRICS nations be move aware of West subversion methods? More aware of West subversion methods? Yes, BRICS member states should be well aware of all the tricks that collective Western or Western ruling class, let's say, is using and can come up with, for sure. And probably, by the way, I mean, we are still in a situation when there are some groups in a leading position worldwide, including in the BRICS countries, that still think that they might be, some agreements might be reached with the globalists or Western ruling class. We can call it whatever, and they are wrong. They are, of course, wrong, right? There is no circumstances in which Western so-called elites will honor any agreements. By the way, they never did, historically speaking, and never will, right? They just cannot operate that way, right? And therefore, probably it will take a little more time before understanding that current Western elites cannot be trusted ever in anything will finally settle in everybody, right? Including among the elites of the BRICS member states, and then we might see some steps that are needed. Oh, there was a super chat, dear friends. Let me react right now. there was super chat on Rumble, dear friends, and I will react on it, and that's about it for today. Let me show you this super chat. Well, that's it. Thank you very much, Banzo Beans, for $2 donation and the super chat on Rumble. And Banzo Beans, our moderator on YouTube and Rumble, is writing just a quick hello from totally innocent, uber neutral, super friendly, not at all in EU or NATO or Switzerland. Oh, I can see our irony. Thank you very much, John, for your comment. Yes, Switzerland, man, Switzerland. Why they destroyed this reputation of the neutral state that they had, and Switzerland benefited tremendously, greatly, isn't it? While being neutral, sort of, maybe not 100% neutral, but nevertheless, right? Switzerland benefited with this neutrality great deal, and now current leadership is destroying this status, which is unfortunate, man. Why they did it? Thank you, John. Thank you, John, for your attention, for assisting with the moderation, and for your donation. And also, I did see, dear friends, a comment from Barner account. Thanks, Levan, but see a doctor for the blood pressure. However, it is a job hazard dealing with this material at the present time. It gets better. Keep well, all. Oh, thank you very much for your kind words, Barney. And of course, you are correct. I have to see doctor. I do understand that. Of course, I have to, and I will. I will at one day. Thank you very much, Barney. And dear friends, I guess this is it. I will end live stream now. Have a wonderful day, and I will just remind you that this evening, late this evening, I will publish second news update, dear friends. Most likely walk and talk type of video. So if you receive notification, or even if you not, check out my channel for this second update. I will try my best to make it interesting and informative. Bye for now, and take care.